How's it going, guys? Alex here. Welcome back to another Dokkan battle video, and today I'm going to be comparing all of the Beeruses currently in the game and basically going to go over which one is the best. But I hope you guys are having a great day as always, and if you do enjoy today's video, consider leaving a like and subscribing if you are new. But let's go ahead and get started with the INT Beerus. His leader skill gives a 33% attack increase to INT types per INT orb obtained. I don't know why they went with this particular leader skill, but this is very reminiscent of Super Baby 2 once he Dokkan awakens, but Nukin isn't that relevant, so it's like, why? I kind of feel like they just gave him this leader skill for the sake of giving him a leader skill, so who knows, maybe Nukin will be the meta in the weeks/months to come. And who knows, maybe there will be multiple metas for certain events. Maybe there will be a new event where it legit requires you to nuke, pardon me. Maybe there are just some with regular leader skills. I suppose we are going to find out eventually, but most likely this was just something random that they decided to do. But moving on to his super attack, God of Destruction's Etiquette. That's a pretty fancy word. Supreme damage and raises defense by 30% for 6 turns. His 12k multiplier is 140%. I initially thought it was 145, but 140 is still a good 12k multiplier nonetheless. And if we move on to the passive, which is God's Judgment, attack goes up by 120% when performing a super attack. So this is basically the norm for the cards that got released quite recently. The only difference is that he doesn't have Fist Battle, he isn't a Super Saiyan, so he is missing out on a few major attack links. But for the most part, he is a very solid unit. He has a semi-farmable super attack, and I would imagine that if you've been playing the game for quite a while, you managed to get a decent amount of TEQ Beeruses in your collection, which of course you can go ahead and feed into the INT type. Moving on to his links, Godly Power, Prodigies, Connoisseur, the Innocent, Shocking Speed, Berserker, as well as Shattering the Limit. Godly Power is an attack link, Prodigies is an attack link, Connoisseur is a healing link, which he shares with Whis. The Innocent is another attack link, Shocking Speed, key link, Berserker, attack link, and then of course we have Shattering the Limit, which is a key link. So he does have a nice balance of attack links and the key links. His major attack link, of course, is going to be Godly Power, and in certain situations, Prodigies as well. Depends on who you pair him up with, and of course, the teams that you are going to be running. But like I mentioned briefly, he is missing out on that Fierce Battle link, which means that he isn't going to be getting the 15% attack increase that the other two Beeruses get. But I definitely feel like this new Beerus does a lot of the things that the older ones couldn't do. It's not to say that the other ones are bad by any means. Of course, I will get into them in a few moments, but this one just does a much better job of being a Beerus card. He gets that 30% defensive increase, 120% attack. He is missing Fierce Battle, but he is still going to be superior in certain areas because of how consistent he is going to be. And now moving on to the TEQ Beerus, and his leader skill is also another interesting one, to be honest. The leader skills in general for the Beeruses just aren't very good. He gives an 80% attack increase to TEQ types. He causes supreme damage and also lowers defense. He has a 12k multiplier of 140% yet again. Of course, you can use the TEQ Beeruses or just any Beerus to raise his super attack. And now this is where things start to fall apart, to be perfectly honest. Gets a 60, okay? A 60. A Beerus card. 60% attack increase at the start of the turn. Rage 1 when health is 30 or equal to 30% or less. Why? Why? He could have given him 100%, and I understand that they didn't want to make the Beerus too overpowered because of the Rage mode, but even when he is in Rage mode, he isn't necessarily going to be hitting that hard. Okay, so to quickly go over the attack, so 1 key or more, it does the Powerful Lick, which does extreme damage. The Cataclysmic Orb, 8 key or more, supreme damage and lowers defense. Now this one, which is the 12 key, God of Destruction Etiquette, causes immense damage to enemy and has a 30% chance to stun. Now here's my gripe with it. What's the point of stunning if you're essentially going to waste that 1 stun on the turn? Or like on the turn that he is in Rage mode. That is instantly 1 turn up. And granted, let's say you do stun. Once you go back to the normal mode, he will still be stunned for 1 more turn. But it's like, it just seems completely pointless. And it says here, in Rage mode, you will take 0 damage, of course, and have a greatly boosted attack. But it just seems completely pointless. I honestly don't get it. He should be able to go into that Rage mode multiple times. Maybe just change the restriction. Maybe change it so that every single time you go into Rage mode, it requires you to be at a certain percentage. For example, let's say that the initial restriction starts at 50%. jump into it once, goes down to 40, goes down to 30, goes down to 20. Just make it harder to go into rage mode, but it would still make that mechanic useful instead of just being like, oh, okay, you went into it for, you know, one time and it just doesn't work anymore. But nonetheless, let's just move on to the link set, which is very similar to the N-type. Godly Power, Prodigies, Connoisseur, the Innocent, Shocking Speed, as well as Fierce Battle. Of course, the major difference here is that this Beerus has Fierce Battle, but he does not have the Berserker link. The Berserker link wouldn't be activated that frequently anyway, just because the better units with it are, of course, the new Vegeta as well as LL Broly. So that link doesn't matter too much. The links that do matter are Godly Power, Fierce Battle, and of course we have Prodigies as well. In certain situations, the Fierce Battle and Godly Power links are going to be active the majority of the time when it comes to a Realm of God's team, or when it comes to TEQ and just other teams in general. Not going to be as consistently activated. But I'm, like, disappointed. Like, it's a shame, because when he first came out, I mean, let's be real here, when a unit initially does come out, they are very solid. But as the game goes on, you can definitely see that they diminish from the meta, and it's like, okay, what are you going to do about it to make this unit relevant again? Which is something that I am looking forward to. They have shown signs of making older units better. Granted, you can just give him potential system buffs, but I feel like at this point that isn't enough because of how limited we are when it comes to certain orbs. So I'm thinking he's some sort of awakening, like a Transcended Ultra Rare Rebirth, which is essentially Extreme Z Awakening. I spoke about it before. Maybe they can introduce something that is like Extreme Z Awakening, but is directed at something completely different, if that makes any sense at all. And now let's move on to the STR Beerus. To be honest, he is my second favorite of the bunch, if you couldn't tell. Now, his latest skill gives a 30% health and attack increase to TEQ, INT, and STR types, causes supreme damage and lowers defense. He has a 12Q multiplier of 140%, and he also has a high chance of getting a 200% attack increase. Now, the 200% sounds nice, but the restriction, it's not so much of a restriction, it's more of a chance more than anything, which kind of sucks because if that 200% was to be activated consistently, he would honestly be one of the best units in the game. But again, one of the things that holds him back is the fact that he does have a passive that relies on a chance, and his link skills are good, but when it comes to some of the major attack links in the game, he doesn't necessarily have all of them. And of course, like the TEQ Beerus, he does have the Fierce Battle link, but no Berserker. But his main attack links are going to be Godly Power and Fierce Battle on that Realm of God's team. To be honest, on Godly Power, when it comes to Godly Power, pardon me, you could potentially encounter Zamasu, and of course Zamasu is going to be activating the Prodigies link as well. But it's just such a non-optimal setup that it's not worth running, especially if Beerus' passive doesn't go off. I personally have this Beerus at 100% in a potential system, and I can tell you guys honestly that he is easily one of the hardest hitting units on an STR team just because of that passive, his attack stat, and of course the 12Q multiplier. The potential system buffs do help massively admittedly, but the majority of the time on a team that I run, the only attack link that is going to be active there, like 99% of the time, is going to be the Fierce Battle link, which only provides him with a 15% attack increase. That could definitely change on a Godly Power team or on a hero team, but for the most part on the major teams that you're going to be running him on, he isn't going to be getting a few of his other attack links. But I definitely feel like they all have their strengths and weaknesses, but personally, I am going to be putting the N-type in the #1 spot. I honestly think the consistency of his passive, and of course the fact that he can tank, is way more important than the high chance of the STR Beerus' passive. The STR one will most likely outdamage the INT Beerus. He has a higher attack stat, higher passive. They have the exact same 12Q multiplier, but overall, he is still getting the bigger attack increase of the two. But I definitely feel like the consistency is way more important. Like I said before, if the 200% was guaranteed, the STR Beerus would easily be in the #1 spot. But I definitely feel like the INT Beerus has way more utility when it comes to defensive abilities as well. Granted, it doesn't matter as much, but it still is a factor nonetheless. Which of course means that the TEQ Beerus is going to be coming up in the #3 spot. He just doesn't compare to the other two. The fact that he only gets a 60% attack increase is one of the reasons for this. But who knows, maybe in the future he will receive an Extreme Z Awakening, and that is something that I am definitely looking forward to. But I hope you guys did enjoy the video as always. And if you did, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below as always. But I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next one.